Hey everyone, doesn't matter who you are, what you do, or what kind of dog you have, or even if you have a dog, Flyball is for you. Welcome back, guys. It's Alex, and for another Flyball and Friends interview. Today we have somebody from PEI, which is quite far from me in Canada-wise. So without further ado, here she is. All right, welcome to the channel. I'm so glad that you could take time out of your day to be here. If you could start us off with introducing yourself for us.
Sure. My name is Eileen Higginbotham, and I race with Fast and Furious here in Prince Edward Island, Canada. Let me see. I made a few notes, so I am looking. Let me see. So for like regular day job stuff, I'm an itinerant resource teacher with the public school branch here in PEI, which means I do what a special ed resource teacher would do, except that I move around. So I would spend 8 weeks embedded in a school, do whatever they wanted me to do for them, and then I move on to somewhere else. I just became permanent in that role, so that's exciting. I am also a sessional lecturer here at our university. I teach in the education department. I teach formal academic assessment to teachers in the system. And let me see. Oh gosh, I own a business with Arbonne, and I co-own a business with my husband and a couple other partners called Dogfathers Brewing. He's the craft brewer and a teacher.
Awesome. That's cool. So how many years have you been playing Flyball for?
So I was trying to figure it out. I think probably around 2001 is when we started taking classes and then kind of went on to tournaments. So almost 20 years, a long time.
Wow, that's cool. And how many dogs do you have?
So we have 7. 3 of them are retired and 2 still play, and then 2 are in training. That one of them thing probably would have at least done some sort of a debut, probably maybe the last tournament of this year, September, October, but that's not going to happen now. And then Berserker is the other, he's the baby, and he's still in training.
Awesome, that's cool. So what got you playing Flyball then?
Sure. So a friend of mine had mentioned to my husband that there's going to be a Flyball tournament in Charlottetown, and did he want to go? And he came home and he's like, I'm going to go with Denise to this Flyball tournament. Come on. And I was like, no, I had no interest in doing that at all on a Saturday. Like, no. Anyway, he went, he fell in love with it, because there's only 2 opinions you have when you see Flyball. You're either like, oh my God, I got to do that, or that's the craziest thing I've ever seen. I don't want anything to do with that. He came home, he told me he had signed us up for classes, and was super excited about this Flyball thing. We had 1 dog at the time, Bishop, our Doberman. And so I said, okay, fine. And then just kind of, we were in the process of moving, and in that jigs and reels, Bishop had broken his growth plate. So we actually had to like forego. We're actually supposed to start in 2000, and it wound up being classes in 2001. Yeah.
Crazy.
And we never looked back.
That's awesome. Now, is there something that you would recommend to someone starting out in Flyball?
So I've been watching a lot of your Flyball and Friends, and like, I'm just going to really reiterate what everybody else has kind of said. The people really, really matter. You are going to spend a lot of time with these people, and you just want to be sure that they are your people. The dogs really don't matter. The speeds don't matter. The talent doesn't matter. It doesn't. The people matter. That's what matters most.
It's definitely a team sport.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, so do you have a most memorable dog that you've gotten to watch race?
So there's actually 2. There's so many memorable dogs, but I'm just going to mention like 2 on my team that really always kind of captivated me. Is Diana Murphy's cattle dog mix, Static, which I think Amanda had spoken about when she did her thing. Static was just, at the time, just this phenomenal dog that was just ahead of the curve in terms of time and training and everything else. And I just really loved watching her all the time. And, you know, Diana would tell you, like, early on, she was never really sure exactly what Static was going to do in terms of, like, was she going to go, or like what was going to happen. And I got to box load a lot of time for Static. And something that we can tell now that we didn't tell anybody then is Static won't take somebody else's wet ball. She was very specific on that. Static had to have dry balls. She would spit and took us, yeah. So So that was always something. If I wasn't box loading for her, I was like, you got to make sure those balls are dry. Like we would dry them out. We would dry them out overnight on Saturday night. We'd lay them all out. We'd be like, got to dry the balls. And then Rachel Hope's Malinois Diesel. And, we actually went with Can-Am. We went with Diesel to Can-Am. Rachel came the first time. And it's so funny because when you got to Diesel up close, which was why it was so interesting to watch her, when you got to Diesel up close, you're like, wow, that is not a big dog. But when you would watch Rachel on the lane with this Malinois, Diesel always looked gigantic because she was just wrestling her and trying to get, and just always, and just a phenomenal dog to watch. Always a lot of fun.
That's cool. It's there's a lot of double entendres in there that I'm hoping that people will just ignore on the dry balls. So
yeah. They had to be dry.
So at what age do you usually start your flyball dog training?
So I think probably a lot of flyball people would say, experienced flyball people anyway, would say the same thing right from the time they come home. Because, like right at the 8 weeks, and because really so much of flyball is the relationship and the working relationship and the foundational training. That's the core of all flyball. So that's really, we start that right away in terms of recall and foundation and just that working relationship, what playing looks like, that you're going to play with me, all of that. So we start right away.
Excellent. And how long does it usually typically take to train a flyball dog?
So you know what, that's always going to depend because the talent varies, the intelligence varies, the experience of the person varies, because somebody who's trained a lot of flyball dogs is going to train a flyball dog faster than some other people, just because we have different sets of eyes. So I guess, it depends, from the time they're 8 weeks, whatever progression it happens. I won't personally debut any of my dogs before they're 18 months old. And I generally prefer 24 months old. I know that to some people that's as soon as they're eligible to play, they like to have them out there. I don't. I really like to take my time, because to me, the more time loaded into the beginning, the more longevity, the safety, all of that. They have to learn how to move.
For sure. So how often does your team practice?
So we practice on generally just once a week. We practice on Sundays, but it's a long one. It's 5 hours. We work all the green dogs and everything into that. Sometimes we'll go in for an extra night, especially if we're in the middle of tourney prep. So every once in a while, if we're getting ready for a tournament and we just need some extra time on the mat, we might do a few hours on a Tuesday night.
Cool. Is there anything that your team does to promote getting new members?
So we have done classes before, but the classes are not always necessarily about looking for new dogs as it is looking for new people. Because again, like I said, the dogs don't really matter. We're looking for somebody that we wouldn't mind spending a lot of time with. So, that's really what our classes are designed for. We don't really take on a lot of new members. We did a round of classes probably about a year and a half ago, and we really did only ask one of them to come forward and come to practice, and we're training her up in the green dogs. And then of course we train them for every piece of it. So while they're training their dog, they're learning all the jobs and they're running ours, right?
For sure. All right. Do you do anything at home for flyball to help with training or anything like that?
So honestly, I probably could do more. And depending on what time of year we're in, if we're in tournament prep or whatever, conditioning, I tend to do a little more, but a lot of it is just chuck it in the backyard or frisbee, disc in the backyard. Prefer chuck. It just tends to be more flatter. But we also, our club owns a lot of agility equipment because we've done performance shows. So we have a lot of the agility equipment in the backyard. So we'll just do some cross training and things like that as well.
Awesome. How often would you say you go to tournaments?
So tournaments here, because of the weather, they generally go from about April to October. And like Amanda said, we generally cycle something local every 3 weeks from in that time period. So there might be 8 to 10 tournaments a year that are Region 10.
That's cool. So do you travel lots for flyball, or do you mostly just do local?
We used to travel a lot more, but to be quite honest, the racing right now is so tight in our region. You get all the benefit of what you would like to drive your dogs. You get all of that here and then some. So not so much. We used to travel a lot, more than we do. Maine. We went to a rocket relay tournament in Binbrook a while ago. They went to Montreal. I didn't go on that trip. And then we've been to Can-Am twice with teams, and then a couple members. We flew in with some other, we kind of went a bunch of Region 10 people. Just flew in together. The third time we went, yeah.
Awesome. So what would be the furthest you've been for Flyball?
So that would be Can-Am. The 2 times we drove down. It takes about 28 hours to drive. And we went twice with teams and then once without teams that we flew.
That's cool. That's a long drive, so good for you for going that far.
Yeah, it's a long time. Again, back to the people. You really need to like people if you're going to get in the car for that long.
100%. So do you have any outdoor tournaments in your area?
So we don't, because the weather just really doesn't allow it. We could. I mean, we've got property. I mean, certainly at Diana's place, we've run. There was one point we had a disc trial at Diana's yard. So you certainly could, but we just don't. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Now, do you have a favorite tournament that you love to go to besides any of the championships?
Okay, so favorite tournament, and no offense to anybody else, because I really don't have a good reason why. I'm going to try and come up with something, but it's to go to Amanda Dudry LeBlanc's tournament in Bridgewater with Maple Leafs. That is honestly my favorite. It's probably it's one of the longer drives other than going to Carleton County to race, in Carol Ann's tournament. But I think I love the area of Bridgewater. I like the drive. Amanda and I are super tight. So, generally I spend some time with her team. We socialize. Our husbands are great friends. So very often, even though Chris doesn't play flyball anymore, he will get in the car and come to Bridgewater so he can hang out with Casey. So, I think, and then sometimes it just draws others. Like, I know Amanda's really great friends with Aaron. So sometimes Rocket Relay will come. So that's awesome too. Yeah.
Cool. Now, do you have anything that would be weird to someone else that you bring to tournaments?
Yeah. And I promise I'll explain. I travel with rectal Valium and oral Valium. So it's 2 doses of rectal Valium and several doses of oral Valium, along with some assorted meds, because Shazam, one of my dogs that's currently racing, has epilepsy, and we have to be ready to treat him, because when he goes into a seizure, it's grand mal and it clusters, and the only thing that brings him out is rectal Valium. We haven't had to do that at a tournament before, but you have to be ready. Yeah.
For sure. All right. What would be one of the more important things you learned when you first started playing flyball?
So it really is the importance of that foundation. It's all about, your recall has to be solid. Your relationship with the dog has to be solid. There has to be a lot of trust. Just all the foundation, just really, really important. And then, of course, again, back to the people, you really have to think about, what respect on the lanes looks like.
For sure. Out of all your dogs, or maybe even somebody else's dog, is there anyone that you enjoyed running over any of the other ones?
So I've had opportunity to race other teammates' dogs and things like that, and that's all been fun. And I like every dog I've run for a different reason. But my current favorite would be Shazam, and it really is because I'm never really sure what he's gonna do. He's a ball spitter. So, sometimes he will go down and come back and it's super fast and it's beautiful and he holds his ball. And then other times you're just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you just never really know. And we've been working the ball holding for his whole career. He just, I think that it's not so fun when we're playing for, something that matters, when you're like, oh, you couldn't drop the ball. But when I think it makes it even better when it all clicks and it all pulls together and he actually brings the ball back and it's super fast and we've just done a really good thing. Whether we've won or not, we've clicked. And so I think that's I get the most elation from when he actually does what he's supposed to do.
For sure.
So there's
all
that.
Right. So is there anywhere else in the world that you would love to go, whether it's compete, train, or even just watch?
Well, since we've been to Can-Am a few times, I wouldn't mind going to see the U-Fly Chance. I don't know that we'll necessarily ever compete there because U-Fly is really just kind of getting a little bit of a foothold here. We had one planned that we were going to try, but that's just not going to happen now this season. But it might be cool to go and see U-Fly Chance. I've just never seen that, so that'd be neat.
Sure. That's awesome. Okay, now what exactly do you like about playing flyball?
The people. It really is. It's the people. Like, not just my teammates or family. Like, there's so many people in this sport that I love, and I just love that I know so many people in so many places, and the flyball's brought us together. There's just so many people in my life that would not be in my life without flyball. So it's like family. It really, really is.
100%. All right. Now, is there one team or maybe one person out there that you like racing against?
So, because I don't want to kind of like offend anybody in Region 10, I'm going to talk about my all-time favorite team that we ever raced against, that regularly raced against, because we've raced against other teams that we've gone to, other tournaments, other areas and stuff like that. But my favorite of all time was APS, led by captained by Paula Reardon in Nova Scotia. And APS was out of Nova Scotia. And at the time they were racing, they don't race anymore. At the time they were racing, what I loved about racing them is every time we went out on the mats against them, it was balls to the walls, everybody's full out. You never knew who was going to pull out the win. And no matter who won, we were all excited. Like, we didn't leave the lanes shaking hands. We left the lanes hugging. Like, we just truly loved each other in terms of teams. And, just Paula Reardon, for those that know her, like, she's just the most wonderful person. She's just the most wonderful person. So she led well. Her team followed her lead and she led well. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. So now, is there a team out there that you haven't been able to watch yet that you would still like to?
Oh, well, again, being a Can-Am 3 times, and once without a team, which made it easier to watch who we won. I really, because you can just kind of go. You're not worried about when you're in the hole and stuff like that. But I really do feel like I've seen, over those 3 Can-Ams, I've probably seen, and then the other traveling that we've done, everybody I would ever want and more. Found some new favorites along the way. So that's been, So I think I've seen everybody, maybe some European teams that would be cool. But I don't really know them. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so what would be one of your earliest memories of flyball?
Okay, so my earliest memory of flyball is probably the very first tournament. Again, like I said, we had one dog, the Doberman Bishop. So Chris ran Bishop, and for 2 full years we didn't have any other dogs. So I did a lot of box loading, and it was our very first tournament. And I was box loading, and of course, rookie box loader, you don't know a whole lot about what the rules are. And we just threw a team together, and just Bishop was on it. We just kind of see what was going to happen. And they won a race, and I jumped off the box. And because I didn't know we weren't allowed, nobody told me you had to stay at least 1 foot on the box. So lovely Carl Dingy, he's just the sweetest judge. He knew how green I was, and he just came up and he said, you can't do that. And I said, oh, okay. So he left me off with a warning, and I never did it again.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's always that grace period when you're first learning about stepping off that box.
Yeah.
And then the box malfunction is another fun one that new people learn about.
Yeah, you're like, what do I do? Yeah.
All right. So do you have another favorite memory of flyball, whether it's on or off the racing lanes?
So I actually probably have a couple. Like, so the road trips to Can-Am, although 28 hours on the road with your dogs pent up is just a little tiny piece of hell as well. It was always just a good time. We were always just killing ourselves laughing, and there was so many. We still tell the stories. There's just so many funny stories of being on the road together on the way to Can-Am. And then I guess another one would be Bishop. So at one point, Bishop had he needed spinal fusion surgery. He had wobblers, and it was really, really expensive. And our flyball region took up a collection and gave us a significant amount of money to help us with that. And that was just unbelievable because we had no idea they were doing that. And then the other one was Shazam. My Flyball region, along with some other friends, gifted me Shazam. I had a puppy who had died during obstruction surgery, kaboom. And so anyway, I contacted Aaron and I just kind of said, I don't really know how to deal with this loss, and just if you can put me on a list for another litter. And he said, actually, I have a dog right now, a litter right now, and there might be one available. And of course, with Amanda's help, he strung me along, pretending that there was this other family, that he had to wait for this other family to say whether they were in or out. And the whole time they had already paid for Shazam and were on their way transporting him to my practice. While Aaron, I was talking to him that morning and he was still saying, I'm still waiting on them as they walked in. And Amanda and Aaron were texting in the background, and Aaron's like, she's just like, she's on me. Like, how soon are you going to get there? Because I don't know how much longer I can just kind of pretend they're thinking. So that was an amazing surprise. Yeah.
That's awesome. Good for that. All right. So any personal goals playing this sport?
So I think a lot of us have the same personal goals, is just to kind of do our best personally as a handler and just to get the most out of our dogs as safely as possible and just kind of grow in our training all the time. But my general rule at Flyball is my general rule at life is just try and leave it better, right? So whatever has happened, just try and take that as a lesson and just do it better, leave it better, always working towards something improving.
Excellent. That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah.
Now, is there anyone in Flyball that you look up to as a mentor, whether it was when you first started or even now?
So, Diana Murphy. Just, she sees so much and she says very little. For people who know her, fairly well, they would probably say that she's very keen in her observations. She is often sought out for her advice. She's a phenomenal trainer, a phenomenal leader, but she says very little. And so when she speaks, people pay attention. What I love about her is that she just gets me. She just really gets me. And I don't know, maybe some people will watch this and say, no, Eileen, I would totally call you out on your stuff any given day. But generally, I don't have a lot of people in my life that'll just kind of say it straight, just, in a sensitive way, but just like, listen, Here's how it is, Eileen. And Diana will do that for me. She will pull me aside and she will, just kind of say what she needs to say to have me understand what I need to understand and just to kind of get on with things. And I just really appreciate that about her. And I really feel like she would be one of the people in our region for sure that a lot of people would look up to and seek out. She's just an amazing person. And the more you get to know her, the more amazing you realize she is. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, hopefully at some point I can meet her and if I get out to your guys' area. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, you'll probably have to meet her in person. She's not usually the one that's going to be in front of the camera.
For sure. All right, so do you have any hobbies outside of playing flyball?
So not so much a hobby, but I'm a ground search and rescue volunteer. So it's not really a hobby, it's more of a volunteer thing. Chris and I are both ground search and rescue volunteers. I'm a trained searcher, but most of my function when I'm on a search and somebody's missing, most of my function is with the search management team. I'm usually in the command trailer with the search management team, and I'm running communications. So I'm the person who, keeps track of, via GPS and technology, whatever, I keep track of the teams. And I communicate with the teams, and if I need to, I communicate with the helicopter and things like that.
Cool, that's awesome. All right, well, I think that's all I have for you today. Only other thing is I would like you to challenge someone to do an interview with me. Do you have anyone in mind?
So I had quite a list, but there's so many people that I still want to hear from that I want you to talk to. But honestly, and I hope she says yes, Cindy Henderson. somebody I really, really like and look up to. She's a phenomenal person. I think a lot of people know her really well. She's a really highly regarded judge and competitor, and I would love to hear her talk about flyball.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. I will reach out to them as soon as I can. And other than that, thank you again for being here. Thank you again for taking time out of your day. It's been amazing getting to hear all your stories and everything like that. So just hopefully at some point we'll see each other on the racing lanes.
I hope.
Thanks again so much for doing this with me. It was great to hear your stories and great for catching up with you. If you guys are new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you get all the notifications of the newest videos. Hit that like button if you like today's interview, and hopefully leave some comments below for either of us or any questions in general about flyball. If you guys need more information about flyball, there is tons of information in the description below. If you guys would like more information on her team, also there is a link in the description below. Until next time, guys, see you then.